I'm Judith Lay, welcoming you to the podcast of the Manx Sky at Night with Howard Parkin.
The Nation Station, Manx Radio.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
And that is the familiar music that tells us that it's time for us to welcome our resident astronomer into the studio, and it's faster my good evening and welcome to Howard Parkin as he presents for us the May edition of the Manx Sky at Night. Well, traditionally we always start this part of the programme by asking Howard what we're going to see in the sky in the coming weeks. But I know it happened a little while ago, but we've really, Howard, got to start by talking about that aurora, haven't we?
Well, Judith, what an amazing display we got on the island of Northern Lights. It was incredible. People have been reporting all over, not just the Isle of Man, but all over the British Isles. In fact, I had somebody contact me who saw a hint of the Northern Lights as far south as Madeira, which is incredible. It really was an amazing, what we call a solar storm. What basically happened, I'm sure listeners know this by now, but what basically happens is the sun had a huge sunspot on it, and that sunspot emitted what we call a coronal mass ejection, and this came straight towards the Earth, and as a consequence it impacted the upper Earth's atmosphere, excited atoms from one electron level to another, emitted light in the form of the magnificent aurora. I often say that the aurora's got a terrible scientific explanation for what is the most beautiful sight in the sky. The thing is, there's a very real possibility that we're going to get this display again. The sun rotates on its own axis in roughly 28 days. So every 28 days or so, the sunspot that gave us the aurora on the 10th of May is going to roll back into view. And as a consequence, if they're still as active as it was then, it was a huge spot, so it probably is likely to be it's just as active. We may well get another outburst and another display of the Northern Lights, which is great. But it's the wrong time of the year, because as we get towards early June, which is when we're talking about now, we're talking about the 3rd to the 7th or 8th of June, we've got the shortest night, the longest day, of course, on the 21st of June. So that means that we're not going to get much in the way of darkness, but still worth looking out for. But unfortunately, if you're a keen aurora spotter, you've got to get up about not necessarily get up, but stay up till about 2 o'clock in the morning, when we have got the only time of night when it's dark enough to see a decent display of the aurora. Well worth looking out for. We don't see it that often. This outburst in particular has been compared to the one we saw in 2003, which I remember vividly talking to Bernie Quayle about on Manx Radio as we drove back from Nearble, having had a Astronomy Society meeting out there, and we saw the aurora then. Happy days, but from 21 years ago. So that's the aurora. Remember, the aurora peaks every 11 years. So as a consequence, and the peak this year is July of this year. So we're going to possibly get auroral displays any time now for the next 12 months or 18 months. So keep your eyes and ears peeled, and we'll see what we can see.
Well, I think we do. Ever since that night, we've all been looking and looking, haven't we? Just hoping that we might see it again. So, aurora aside, what else, Howard, is going to be visible in the night skies for the next month?
Well, Judith, it's that time of the year when we don't get very dark skies. We don't get beyond what is known as astronomical twilight from the end of May right through to the early August. So sadly, we don't get to see many very bright objects in the sky. However, there's always something to see, as you well know. Well, as I say, the sky being too bright, unfortunately, this exceptionally, for the first time in a number of years, we've got no planets visible in the sky whatsoever. We have got Mars, Jupiter and Saturn rising in the early hours of the morning, but honestly, by the time they've risen and are visible, the sky is going to be too bright. So the best thing we can look at is some of the brighter stars, and we have really got some very good bright stars in our skies at the moment. There's about three what I would classify as really bright stars worth looking for. One of them we mentioned last month, which is the star Arcturus, which is the bright star in the constellation of Boötes the Herdsman. Now, Boötes the Herdsman is a kite-shaped sort of constellation to the side of the constellation of Ursa Major, or more familiarly known to most people as the Plough. And Arcturus is quite a fascinating star. It's only 37 light years away. Remember, light travelling in 1 year takes 37 years, and it makes it one of the nearest of the brightest stars we've got in the sky. It's actually the fourth brightest star in the sky. And just to the left of that, we've got the constellation of Corona Borealis, very faint constellation. It looks like a bit of a crown, like an inverted, or a U shape, really. But within that, there is a star, a very obscure name star. It's just a series of letters. And this is a star that is actually thought to be a recurrent nova, a star that is likely to blow up sometime in the not too distant future, literally, possibly this year or maybe a bit later. We don't know when it's going to happen, so worth keeping your eyes and ears on that part of the sky. But what I'd like to point out today, I thought in the fact that we've got no bright star, not much in the skies at the moment in the way of planets, I thought let's let the listeners look for one particular star each month. So this month we're going to look at the star Deneb. And Deneb is a very bright star. It is the brightest star in the constellation of Cygnus the Swan. It's the 19th brightest star in our sky, but it's 1,500 light years away, really a long, long way away. Compare that to Arcturus I mentioned a moment ago, which is 37 light years away. And one of the other stars, of bright stars in the sky, the fifth brightest, Vega, is 25 light years away, and we'll talk about that one next month. But Deneb is 1,500 light years away. It's a massive, huge, very bright star. So bright, but as I say, it still features in our list of the brightest stars visible from the Isle of Man.
I really like the idea of going out and collecting stars on Howard's stargazing trail. So, Howard, we'll perhaps come back to that and see how people are doing. And we'll have to get Howard Parkin Astronomer Award if you get all the 3 stars over the 3 months. Now, are you ready, listener? This is a showing off alert coming here. So, Howard, is that one of the summer triangle of stars?
Yes, Judy, if you have been doing your homework, that is indeed. It's one of the 3 stars that make up this wonderful feature in the summer sky called the summer triangle. You can only see, realistically, at this time of the year, you can only see one of them, which is Deneb, which is why we're mentioning Deneb. We'll come on to Vega and Altair, the other 2, next month. But the summer triangle, it's great because it comes up in about late May time. The whole thing comes up in late May. You see Deneb, and then you see the other 2 a little bit later on. And they're visible right through till October. So they really are quite spectacular. And as I say, let's have a look at each one. We'll have a look at Deneb this month. Hopefully people can find Deneb. The next month we'll look for Vega. And the month after, in August, we'll look for Aquila. But to find Deneb for yourself, as I said, just look at the sky, have a good look round, have a look at the Plough, find the Plough for yourself, which is pretty well, it's coming down now. He's been overhead in the spring months, and now he's starting to set on his tail. Follow the tail round until you find the star Arcturus, but then go to the left of this, towards the northeastern horizon, and you'll see a star sitting there all on its lonesome. That's the star Deneb. And Deneb, as I say, really spectacular, very, very bright, very easy to spot. To be absolutely honest with you and listeners, Deneb never actually sets. It never sets. It actually skirts the horizon. It's high enough up. It's near enough up to the northern celestial pole, the star Polaris, which we find by using the stars of the Plough we've mentioned many a time before. But the star Deneb actually sits on the horizon and skirts the horizon until it gets to about May. Then it starts to rise in the eastern, the northeastern sky, and then rises due south and all the rest, and is visible right through then till, as I said earlier, in November time.
Howard, what's the chances of us seeing any meteor showers this month?
Sadly not. The last shower we saw was the Eta Aquarids, and they were meant to be quite spectacular in early May, but I didn't see any. The weather wasn't particularly good anyway. And the next big shower, the next major shower we get to see is the Perseids in August, and I'll be talking about them in some detail when we get to August. But I know you always love me talking about these, Judith. The noctilucent cloud season has started. The noctilucent cloud season is that sort of compensation we get for the light nights. The light nights of June, July, and August give us the chance to see these clouds. Night shining clouds is what they're called, and the word is noctilucent. And these are very spectacular. You only see these this time of the year when the sky is quite bright. What you're seeing is clouds that are so very, very high up. They're thousands and thousands of feet up, the highest clouds we get to see. And these are illuminated by the sun, which is not below the horizon from where these clouds are. And there's all sorts of speculation that these form on particles of dust, they form on particles of ozone. There may be something to do with the increase in the temperature of the Earth. Who knows? That's one of those things that's being investigated. And noctilucent clouds are always quite spectacular. They're silvery. They're very tenuous, sort of linear sort of shaped objects. And they're very spectacular. And I hadn't seen, I think I said this last year, I hadn't seen any for many, many years. I've not seen any at all, full stop, until about 5-6 years ago. And I saw some and I thought, wow, they really are spectacular and well worth looking out for. And clearly visible from our night skies at this time of the year. It makes a bit of a compensation for us, as I say, as we go through June, July, into early August. Then the stars, the nights start to get a bit darker again, and the noctilucent clouds aren't as visible as much. So that's something to look out for. So that's what we've got in the night sky at the moment.
And let's just hope that we do get some nice clear skies for the short time that it is dark-ish. But you're absolutely right, Howard. We don't get completely dark skies at this time. Now, we've just about reached the halfway mark, so let's have our music break. And I know, Howard, you particularly wanted me to choose this to fit in with the aurora that just has made such an impact on all of us.
Not profound, I turn to see the northern lights behind the wind. Horizons seem to beckon me, learn how to ride too young, so now I live to sing. The northern lights are in my mind, they guide me back to you. Horizons seem to beckon me, learn how to ride too young, so now I live to sing. You know it's hard away from you, traveling roads and passing through. It's not for money and it's not for fame, I just can't explain. Sometimes it's lonely, marking the space between the days. Early hours pass away, I sing to you of northern lights, I sing for you of northern nights. Past or future, here or there, shelter comes in words from you, so talk to me. I hear your voice, it comforts me. In morning dreams, I take your hand, you walk with me. The northern lights are in my mind, they guide me back to you. Peace enfolds till I dare home again. I look for you and find you there. Destination homeward now. Take the easy way, bring me down. Making the hard way now I see. Hard to be really free. I'm missing you near me. Marking the space between the days. Early hours pass away. I sing to you of northern lights. I sing for you of northern nights. The northern lights are in my mind, they guide me back to you. The northern lights are in my eyes, they
Renaissance and Northern Lights, our music break for this week. You're listening to the May edition of the Manx Sky at Night with our resident astronomer, Howard Parkin. Well, we spent the first part of the programme gazing upwards into our Manx skies. Now, looking a little further afield. Howard, what news have you got from the world of space exploration?
Well, things have been a bit quiet recently, Judith. There's a couple of things going on at the moment, but there's one story in particular that is really mind-blowing, and this one isn't strictly to do with the exploration of space using spacecraft and astronauts, but it's to do with the origins of the universe. For many years, we have accepted that the major theme or the major idea for the origin of the universe is the Big Bang Theory, that everything was compressed to a tiny, tiny point, and the whole universe expanded out from that. And when the Hubble Space Telescope was launched in 1990 and then fixed in 94, they discovered that was right. They discovered that the universe was definitely expanding, and some of the other theories about multiverses and things like that sort of were dismissed. And so we were happy that the universe was expanding and continuing to expand at a slowly or an ever-increasing rate, albeit the measurement of that is what is a big debate. Well, since they launched the James Webb Telescope a few years ago now, on Christmas Day, if you recall, that's been taking measurements, and they've discovered there are galaxies within the universe that are frankly too well developed for their age. And this is giving rise to all sorts of speculation, and there's a lot of theories going around. And the latest one, which seems to be credible, is that they think the universe may be oscillating. And this is where the universe has periods of expansion and then contraction, expansion, then contraction. And this still fits in with the Big Bang Theory, that the universe was created at the time of the Big Bang, but it isn't expanding at an ever-increasing rate, or the steady state theory, which is one of the ideas that was once mooted some years ago now. They're now thinking that the universe is oscillating, as I say. And this is fascinating, because this is something that we hadn't considered before. And it's all to do with dark energy and dark matter, because dark energy and dark matter are those things in the universe that give us the things we can't see. We actually can only see something like 6%, I can't remember the exact figure. We can only see something like 6% of the universe is visible to our telescopes and the naked eye, etc. So basically, the missing matter or the missing energy, and the two are inexorably linked, is something we're exploring at the moment. And we think this strange expansion rate, this oscillating expansion of the universe, may be caused by dark matter and dark energy. So it's one of those things that obviously it's a bit complicated, and apologies to listeners for that, but it's fascinating, and it's one that's going to be talked about in the scientific circles for some time, and it may well hit the headlines sometime in the not too distant future if the theory becomes more and more credible. So keep your eyes and ears open, and we'll wait and see what goes on. The only other big story is that NASA have realised that their sample return mission, you've got the Perseverance rover on Mars at the moment collecting samples, and they're going to send another spacecraft to collect them. Well, they've realised that the cost of this mission is just spiralling out of control, and the latest figures for like 11 billion, which is incredible. And so NASA have actually put their hands up and said, right, we don't think this is financially viable. Help, is what they're saying, and they're asking the commercial sector to consider how they could possibly do something to help them. And of course, guess who's put his hand up and said, I might be able to help you, but none other than Elon Musk and SpaceX, because their Starship rocket, which is a story in its own right, but once that gets working properly, they might be able to get that to Mars with quite a large payload on it, and they could possibly go down and collect the samples and whatever. So watch this space. It's all very exciting, and remember, listeners, you heard it first on Manx Radio.
And here was me thinking that it was you, Howard, that had put his hand up and said, I think I can help. Howard, I'm just still pondering over that. I never thought that on this programme we would be talking about rethinking the origins of the universe, but you never know what you have in store for us. Anything else? Any other shocks and surprises for us, Howard?
We've had one of the confirmations that some of the theories of Einstein were correct. They've been studying black holes, and they've been studying the fact that objects near black holes don't necessarily orbit the black holes, but actually go straight in. The gravitational attraction, the gravitational pull of the black hole is so intense that it pulls the material straight into it. And this is quite a revolutionary suggestion, and it was actually put forward by Einstein over 100 years ago, and now they've proved that yet another one of Einstein's theories has proved to be correct. Another space story we've got, of course, is the launch of the Boeing Starliner. The Boeing Starliner, the first launch of Boeing's commercial spaceflight with 2 NASA astronauts on board. That was meant to be launched way back on the 6th of May. It was then put back to the 17th of May. And it was meant to be launched yesterday on Saturday, and now it's been put back to the 1st of June. But it will be quite exciting because this is the second commercial spacecraft now that can carry men and women up to the International Space Station. So I'm afraid we'll have to wait now till the 1st of June and hopefully it'll go up then.
Hopefully it will, and if it does, it will be amongst the many topics that we will be talking about when Howard comes back into the studio with us to join us on the last Sunday in the month of June for the next edition of the Manx Sky at Night. In the meantime, Howard, thank you very much indeed for joining us tonight. We wish you a very good evening.